Listen to Pickles and Vodka and your burnout will be cured.
Yes.
Or maybe we'll just make you think about it more. You'll realize you have burnout from listening to this and we'll stress you out even more.
That's what was going on.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And today I am currently sitting in bed in my new apartment with my cat next to me with a monster. What are you doing?
I have a not wet so much as damp dog sitting in my lap because I decided to give him a bath before this.
Is that a huge ordeal?
It's not, because he takes it pretty well, even though he hates it. The worst part is at some point when I'm trying to like rub the soap in him and everything, then I feel like he just kind of gives up and his legs like slide out from underneath him. And I'm just like, I can't get around your body if you're going to sink to the floor.
That's kind of how I feel when I go to the doctor.
Yes, that's a good call.
So many people gave us some great feedback on our pet episode last week, and I just wanted to say thank you. Today is a different kind of episode, though. We will be reading the answers to the latest pickle poll, which is all about, drumroll, Lauren. Burnout. You were supposed to do a drum roll.
I did. Did you not hear it?
No. Oh, so sometimes Zoom will like automatically repress background noise.
It doesn't think that I wanted my drum roll to be heard.
Yeah, this is why I don't like to use Zoom.
Stupid Zoom.
Stupid Zoom. This podcast is not sponsored by Zoom, nor do we approve of Zoom.
No. And now it never will be.
Now it never will be. I don't think I've ever heard of a podcast that was sponsored by Zoom. Like, can you imagine the size?
No.
Of the podcast?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh my God. Wait, okay. Before we talk about burnout, I wanted to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. First of all, the podcast has hit 7,000 downloads as of this morning. And that seems really small, I know, like compared to a lot of other podcasts, but listen, it's big for us.
Yes, I'm impressed.
I'm very impressed. And I would just want to say thank you to everyone who listened and gave us support and feedback. And we love you all.
Everyone who's welcoming me, that's fantastic.
Yes. I feel like there was another thing I wanted to talk about for housekeeping. Oh, I remembered, but we'll talk about it at the end.
Okay.
It's how to leave a voicemail.
Oh,
Some
okay.
people are confused. So if you are just dropping in, every other week, we put out a pickle poll, which is a question for listeners to answer. And what it does is start a conversation about mental health. And the reason we picked burnout is because it's been getting a lot of attention lately, and it's also been really relevant in my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't want this to be is like a typical burnout episode, because I feel personally, I have heard the word burnout so many times in the last couple of years, it makes me want to like punch someone.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's gotten the same sort of thing. Like every time my boss says, we'll circle back, I just want to throw myself out a window. It's one of those sort of phrases.
I hope this email finds you well.
Yes.
I hope this email doesn't find me at all, actually. That was not original. I stole that from a meme or something.
Okay.
So Lauren, what do you think of when you hear the word burnout, and how does it apply to you?
I think of for myself that I would probably be very unlikely to recognize it because that's the sort of person I am. I feel like I would just convince myself, at least for me, that it's not real and push myself through. And who knows how many times I've experienced it. Like, it's one of those things that I understand other people, if they say like, oh my God, you know, like I have just been going and I've had so much going on and I can understand and sympathize. Like, yeah, I see why you feel burned out. But if I start to feel that way, I'm just like, you're just being a baby. Just keep going to work.
Yeah, I find myself doing that too. For me, it's like I have so many good things in my life currently that like when I do feel burned out, I'm like, you have no right to feel this way.
Yeah, that's a really hard thing too. I think when like positive things are also very stressful and causing a lot of stress.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I moved this week And that's
Right.
a perfect example. Like moving is exciting. The new place is great, but it's just been taking over my life. Like I haven't really been able to think about anything else.
Moving is hella stressful, even if it is like a good thing.
That'll be you in a couple months.
I know.
So the pickle poll was, what does burnout look like in your life and how do you cope with it? Maybe we should talk about what burnout isn't, first of all.
Okay.
When we are talking about burnout today, we don't mean like depression, like not being
Right.
like, I don't know. Of course.
Depression is a whole different monster. I agree.
Yeah. I see burnout as a symptom of depression and like maybe a symptom of other things. Or it could just, like you said, sneak up on you and come into your life innocuously. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you realize, I don't know when the last time I did something fun is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, lately I feel like I don't have any hobbies or any friends. And I know that's not true, but it feels that way because I've been putting down my head and just focusing on just one thing.
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of things I've had to work on, and just like a lot of things that had to be taken care of. And like we said, some are negative and some are positive. And I've just been going at some point and realized, when did I last just go out and talk with a friend?
Yeah. I want to start playing these voicemails we got right away because they're so good and they're going to start so many conversations. But first, I'm just checking one more time if we got any on Instagram. Okay. It's just spam. Okay, so I want to start with a voicemail left by a friend of the pod, Orion. Orion has been listening for a while, and if you guys don't remember, he's the one that sent in the art that I posted a few months ago. He sent in a print of a jar of pickles with a shot of vodka next to it, and it says imperfect and okay.
Oh, I saw that. I loved that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Orion is an OG friend of the pod, and he sent in a voicemail answering this pickle poll. So we're going to just play it and go from there.
Hey, it's Orion here, just stopping in, first of all, to say that I'm loving Lauren on the podcast. I love your co-host dynamic. Her first episode was one of your best, for sure, I think.
No!
And I really hope that you guys continue to record together.
You will.
Guests or no guests, you guys are great. Super happy to hear you always. And I'm just popping in to talk about your latest pickle poll about burnout, so you can cut out this first voice message because I can only do a minute at a time. It just got me thinking a lot about how burnout manifests in my life and brought me to some realizations. So here we go. So I've always kind of suspected that I have bipolar disorder because I feel like manic depression is a really big factor in my life, both the constant urge to be in motion and accomplish things versus just total anhedonia and lack of pleasure and extra energy at the end of the day to really have a personality in myself. And those are three big factors of burnout: is emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and decreased sense of accomplishment, according to Herbert Freudenberger. And so to me that looks like getting the basic necessities of work done and work addiction, and then not knowing really who I am or what to do once that work is done. So while technically I'm getting things done that I want to do in life, I'm working over 40 hours a week, or getting my whole house cleaned and all the shit, getting my volunteer shifts in, I'm not really getting enough showers per week. I'm not really reaching out to my friends as much as I'd like to. I don't have the energy at the end of the day to create the art that I want to create. And I don't have the luxury of having balance in my life. Just all burned up with work and to relax. I just need to complete that stress cycle. So to relax, I just turn to drugs or alcohol or mindless distractions. Just cannot be in my body because being in my body demands attention that I don't have the energy to give to it. So throughout the day, I'll have a lot of unprocessed thoughts and feelings because I'm just trying to I don't have like the energy to really process my thoughts and emotions on things. Like my head is so busy, and so all my thoughts show up in the middle of the night, and so I cannot sleep. I've just got insomnia, and so like throughout the day I'm all jacked up on caffeine, and it's a vicious cycle. It's
Called out.
just like every day is just a drag, and like I have to cut corners all the times. Like I've got to prioritize what I'm going to give my energies to. And yeah, just I never have time for fun, never time for like big enjoyment or little enjoyment. And so that's what burnout looks like to me. And so really my whole life is just coping with burnout at the moment, I feel, truly. So coping with burnout for me looks like damage control, basically keeping myself clean, keeping my environment clean, and really just trying to find enjoyment and purpose in all the little things that I can experience, even if that's just going for a walk, even if that's seeing a friend once a week, or just like texting somebody, like cold texting somebody. Like if I can just put all of my effort into that, it's better than nothing, I feel. I really don't see
Agreed.
myself escaping this cycle at the moment. So, hey, if we gotta cope, we gotta cope. And maybe like spread like butter over too much bread, as Bilbo Baggins says. But,
Oh my God.
you know, nothing good with
Tolkien,
a
shut
thick
up.
slice of buttery toast. So, that's life, I guess. I wish that I had more profound insights on this subject, but it's very new to me, and I'm learning about.
It's okay,
and it's
BB.
especially difficult being like trapped within this cycle currently. But I can sort of like visualize a life outside of just like basic survival, even though I'm not really there at the moment. Like I take my liberties in smaller ways, and I think that if small things are all you can do when you're trapped in like a larger cycle of burnout, but you can't like escape that cycle,
So true.
enjoy it,
Mhm.
because life is still happening right now, and that's something that's good to zoom out and remind yourself of the bigger picture. Life is still happening, even when life is a little too much. So stay crazy, and stay alive.
Cut out
I think
there,
most
but
importantly, if I have anything profound to say, is that preserve your energy for what you love at the end of the day. Like, preserve your energy for your friends or your art. Anything that sort of gives you any kind of passion for life. Forsake work, forsake productivity for that. Because at the end of the day, like, you need to replenish your energy. Like, you have a finite amount of energy, and find what drains your energy and what gives you energy, and just focus on trying to create a balance. I guess that's the advice I'd give myself, or I try to. Thank you for the energy that you put into this podcast, because it brings me a lot of joy. So, thank you. Bye-bye.
oh my God, Orion. There's so many good quotes that he
Yeah,
said.
I was nodding along through the entire thing, like, yep, I got it.
When he said forsake productivity and forsake work and preserve your energy for the things that really make you happy. First of all, you don't think that's profound, Orion, but it's extremely profound. I'm in awe of the profundity of it all.
I actually just sat there and thought about that, because I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way.
It's a lot to think about. I had to look up the word that he used at the beginning, anhedonia.
I was going to say something about that, like it's too early in the morning for those kind of words.
So anhedonia means the inability to feel pleasure.
Oh, okay.
And it's, oh my God, it like everything he said was so true.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you have a lot of good things in your life, like, you know, you're gainfully employed, you volunteer, you are keeping a clean house, you're taking care of your pets, that still takes up so much of your energy. And even if it's a good thing, it can still lead to burnout.
Yeah, it really hit me when he said, like, you know, you just keep going and doing everything you have to do. So when you have a chance to actually stop, it's like you don't know who you are, and that, and just like saying, you know, you just end up using substances to numb out, because you just don't, you can't be in your head.
Yeah, you don't know any
that
other
really
way.
struck a chord.
Same. It's really hard. Like for me, when I am burnt out, I do turn to substances a lot. And in the past, like eating disordered behaviors, because it's too exhausting to think of anything else. Like I know that there are other ways that I can relax, but in the moment, I'm just too fucking tired to try to come up with them.
Yeah. And I think that's some of it too, is I have my chance to relax, and I will do something like that because if I just try and stop, then my brain is still running a million miles an hour. And I need it to somehow, I'm like, this is my chance to relax. I need you to shut up, please.
Exactly. But like when I do that, I always feel cheated in the end. Like, okay, this wasn't as relaxing as I was led to believe, and I still feel burned out. So that turns into a spiral of like, better use more substances to cope.
If you'll allow me to dig into my years of therapy, I imagine how a therapist would respond is that if you're doing that, you are just running away from it in the moment. And once you're done running, it's all still there and it comes right back. So it doesn't help. It doesn't get rid of it.
I mean, the hardest thing about recovery for me in the last year, and just to clarify, like recovery from bulimia, although I am in recovery for some substances as well. It's a slippery slope, a gray area, if you will. Fuck, I forgot what I was going to say. What did you just say, Lauren? I'm so sorry.
I said that you're just kind of like putting off the bad feelings instead of like erasing them. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Like the hardest part of recovery for me is that I thought my problems would like get better, but really they just became more clear. And so because I am not focusing so much on my eating disorder these days, I'm more aware of like my job, for instance, and even the podcast. As you all have heard, the reason that I brought Lauren on as a co-host was because I was so burnt out with the podcast. I was doing it all by myself and like not really balancing it with healthier things like Orion mentioned.
So this is a very relevant episode.
It's so relevant. And that's kind of why I picked it. We still have to figure out how we're going to come up with like future ones. We could take turns with that too, honestly. Like you could pick the next one if you want.
Okay.
Anyway, staying focused. I honestly, I'm just still processing that voicemail. That was incredible.
I know.
Thank you, Orion, so much. We love you.
I'm glad we have access to it. I will listen to it again.
I know, me too. It's so good. We'll take like a quick little sidebar, housekeeping sidebar. If you all want to leave us a voicemail, it's even easier now. So you go to our website, anchor.fm/picklesandvodka, and then you click the button that says message, and it picks up your microphone. Like you select your microphone, and then you can record as many messages as you want. And they're like a minute each, I think, but I stitched them together. So yeah, it's so easy. You can also leave us voicemails on Instagram, but it's a little bit harder to export those. So moving forward, if you all could just use Anchor, that would be fantastic. Anything else to say about Orion's voicemail?
Like I said, I didn't know how much I had to say about burnout. And then I just heard it like my life described. So that was really, that was just all encompassing. It was really, really good to hear.
I think that's one thing, one misconception that we do have as a society about burnout is that we think it's this new thing that has emerged and just fucked everyone over, and that it happens in big ways. But that's not really the case. I think the burnout, like I said, can be really innocuous and kind of sneak up on you, and it can be the result of good things, like we said.
Yeah. And I think it's just because it somehow became a buzzword. That's why we're treating it like it's a new thing. But it's not like just because we didn't have the exact word to describe it, it was still happening.
Exactly. Oh, and I really like how he talked about art.
Oh, yeah. Because I get that too.
Yeah. I mean, you were in a band. Like, did you experience burnout when you were doing that?
I don't think of that so much as just in general. I've always been a very musical person. I started taking piano lessons when I was 4. I was in lots of competitions and things like that for it. And by the time I was in high school or like early college, then I really enjoyed playing piano at that point. That would be a thing that I would do. I would do it almost every day. I'd sit down. It was a great thing. I found like if I was waiting for a friend to pick me up and they were late, then I was just like, oh, well, it won't bother me because I can just sit here and play and, enjoy myself until they manage to get here. And more in the past, like even 10 years, I would say, I feel like there's so many times where I just think like, when is the last time I sat down at my piano and played? And it could be over a month ago. And I'm just like, it's something that I really loved and made me feel so good when I do it. Why don't I make time to do it?
But it's like when you are making time to do it, your mind is still so full of all the other stuff that it's hard to enjoy it. And that's the sucky thing about burnout.
Yeah, it's like, because it was something I got so much enjoyment from, it needs to be in that headspace. It can't be like, I'm going to force myself to sit in front of the piano and play. This is fun. You like it.
I really like what Orion said about like, even if you're just taking a few minutes to text someone back, for instance, like just
I love that one.
Put all your energy into that. The idea of compartmentalizing, just like, okay, for 5 minutes, all I'm going to do is text back this person that I haven't texted back in months because their message was so thoughtful and I feel like I'm not in the right headspace to answer.
Right.
That's not from my real life or anything. But yeah, it's like before I did this podcast with you, I was like, okay, I have 30 minutes. I could be cleaning my new apartment and I feel like I should, but also I feel like I should just sit down and like empty my inbox. Like I'm going to be on the computer anyway. I'm just going to do some housekeeping stuff on the computer. And I did. I like devoted all my energy to that and it feels really good.
Good.
Good. Great. Love that for you.
Yeah. Love that for you.
Are you ready for the next one?
Yes. Is it Ginger?
It is Ginger.
Let me pull it up.
All right.
So for the pickle poll about burnout, your dear mother's answer is that burnout looks like, to me, being sad and not stepping back and seeing there is a bigger picture, but all I can see are the things that are overwhelming me. And that's what burnout looks like to your mom. Great question, as always. Love you.
Oh.
I forgot to answer part B, what do I do about burnout? And so I would say going to the beach or just seeing some body of water is one way I cope. And of course, I read my Bible. That's a really big picture. But I try to do something that makes me laugh, even just a funny show on TV, Netflix, The Office, something like that. So that's how I tend to cope with burnout.
Is she not adorable?
Yes. I was just about to say, I love this person's accent. And then it's like, your mother. Like, oh,
Yes, we love Ginger Lou on Pickles and Vodka. She's been a guest a few times. Yeah, so I like, again, mentioning big picture. I think you mentioned that earlier. It's like, it's really hard to see the big picture when you are caught in this cycle of burnout.
yeah.
And sometimes you do just have to like remove yourself from your regular environment, like go to the beach, go to a coffee shop. I don't know.
Loved that just specifically because, I grew up in Michigan, so I was around large bodies of water. People that have never seen the Great Lakes, you can't see the other side. No, it's not an ocean, but they're pretty damn big.
Oh my God. Did I tell you that my very first job is working at a hot dog stand on Lake Michigan?
No.
Yes. Yeah, it really does feel like the ocean, but it's really, really cold and like the water's clearer.
Yeah.
In the ocean. I miss it so much. But yeah, great for your mental health.
But yeah, like that's the same thing is, especially like now me being in Missouri, I feel like this is the first place I've lived for a long time where I'm just kind of like, there's no big bodies of water near me. It's not Michigan, it's not Chicago, it's not an ocean. There's just like a little puddle here and there.
So how do you scratch that itch, if you will, now? Or do you even?
I don't. That was a big driving factor that I said from the beginning why I usually visit my parents in Michigan at Christmas time. And I said this year, I want to go in summer. I want to have beach days. I want to stand and look out and see all of the sand and water and just take it in.
Yeah, it's a great distraction. Like sometimes You literally do have to physically remove yourself. But
Yes.
you can, she was talking about TV shows and like reading and stuff. Like there are ways you can mentally remove yourself as well. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I liked that too, because I mean, that's more how I deal, I think, with like heavy depression and having no motivation from depression, rather, though, like we said, burnouts can be kind of connected.
Yeah,
But
I said earlier that like it was a symptom, like
yeah,
depression can be a symptom of burnout and vice
they're
versa.
not unrelated. They're in a Venn diagram for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just funny because that has actually become one of my solutions sometimes is I started finding random stand-up shows on Netflix, and I'll just put that on because it's just kind of like, if something can make me laugh, that's going to just make this a little bit better.
Podcasts are great.
Yes, with two hilarious co-hosts.
Yeah, obviously. Listen to Pickles and Vodka and your burnout will be cured.
Yes.
Or maybe we'll just make you think about it more. You'll realize you have burnout from listening to this and we'll stress you out even more.
That's what was going on.
In that
Thanks
case,
for the problem, guys.
I mean, self-awareness is very important. Too much
Yes.
self-awareness, on the other hand.
Yeah.
Fuck, what was I going to say about what we were just talking about?
I don't think I can save you this time.
Sometimes the best thing that you can do to just pull yourself from the depths of your brain is just putting the stupidest shit on and watching it. I'm trying to think of a good example. I mean,
Yeah,
The Office isn't stupid, but...
And I think that is a good way too, because I think like an important thing about what you're doing there is removing yourself. And
in a healthy way.
Yeah, and one of the first things I think of is like physically removing yourself, because sometimes, yes, when you get like so deep in your head like that, then even if it doesn't sound like it's going to help, just be like, I'm going to force myself to leave my apartment and go to a different place. Even the same way, yeah, like talking about the TV shows, is that it's just kind of like my brain is stuck in this spot and it does not want to laugh. It does not want to think lighthearted. And it's just kind of like, I'm going to make it concentrate on that and put it in a different spot.
But then the downside of that can be just numbing yourself out.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other issue. Like, that's why this topic is so tricky, because it really sucks and it's so pervasive. So yeah, this advice we're getting is great. And I'm excited to listen to more. We have one more voicemail. It's funny because like Orion, I think, was going on a walk. You can hear like birds and kids in the background.
Yeah, I heard that.
Good for you. Good for you. Going on a walk.
I was thinking that at first, like, does he have children?
No.
I hear them in the background.
This next voicemail that we're about to play has to do with birds as well. So this is from Alyssa, who has sent in numerous voicemails before in responses to previous pickle polls. We love her on the show. And yeah, I'm just going to play it.
Ha, this is a good one.
Good start.
Do you have to cope with burnout, or do you just kind of like power through it? Because I definitely just power through it.
Yep.
I am one of those people who will run on empty for so long, and just that's my general existence, is just perpetual burnout. I end up punishing myself in one way or another when I get really bad burnout. Like right now, I'm in a horrible burnout phase, which is why I was laughing at this question, because I am so tired all the time, and I have to do things. I have to get up and go. I have school. I have work. I have horrible brain fog because of, one reason or another, not getting enough protein, this, and that. And I end up sacrificing my health. But on top of that, things I like to do, things I love to do, for those things that have to be done, because I will collapse and I have to get the things done that I need to get done before that happens. And then it just becomes a cycle where basically I just keep doing that, where I sacrifice something that I want to do, or I sacrifice a proper meal, or I sacrifice a mental health day, or I sacrifice reading a book for things like work and school and projects, and even things that I have to do end up getting sacrificed, like things that are considered lesser on the scale, like commissions. You know, when I'm making my art commissions, a lot of times it takes me, like, I have a commission right now that's been sitting there waiting for me to paint it for a month now because I can't bring myself to do it because I'm so fucking tired all the time. I don't mean lesser in the way that people think. Like, I prioritize commissions a lot, but they're not time sensitive, and that's what I mean. Goddess knows I would love to make art my career, or at the very least be the thing that helps me pay to drive 3 hours to mortuary school every day, you know? But it doesn't pay the bills as much. So on that scale of what do I have to do to pay rent, it's on the lesser scale, unfortunately. And, you know, school and work are the main things that just kind of are always going. And I'm always pushing myself to constantly keep going. And everything else gets sacrificed in the meantime. It's not quite a coping mechanism as much as it is I guess you could call it an unhealthy coping mechanism, where I just kind of sacrifice things that should bring me joy for things that have to get done. And there's always things that have to get done, and I'm so tired that I never squeeze in the things that I want to get done because of it. I just don't even bother. And that's the saddest part, is that I don't bother squeezing it in. I don't bother pushing it in anywhere because I'm so tired that all I want to do at the end of the day is just put a pillow over my head and sleep.
Yes.
Or not even just sleep, but just not think. You know, art takes time, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes thought. You know, same with everything else. And so it becomes this thing where you know, reading a book takes effort, it takes thought, it takes presence, mental presence, things that I don't have at the end of a long day. And every day is really long lately.
Yes.
I recently did a donation drive for a parrot rescue in Texas, and it was awesome. I got a really great turnout, and I should be excited. But all I'm thinking is, okay, now I have to get these printed out. I got to make sure they're properly trimmed. I got to make sure that they're properly wrapped. I got to make sure that I get my thank you letters out. I got to make sure that I get all of these shipped out to UPS. I got to make sure I drive to UP fucking S, you know? And it becomes this thing where everything takes effort. And I'm not saying it's not worth it. It absolutely is. Anything to help, you know. It's just one of those things where something that should excite me is exhausting because I'm so burnt out. You know, my in-laws were talking about getting a dog, and they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, I think it's just another responsibility for me. And that was the truth. You know, it's just one thing that to add to my list of other things. So the gist of it is basically, I cope with burnout by sacrificing things that I enjoy and things that should excite me because it's just extra work. And it's that form of self-preservation, but it's not really self-preservation, if that makes sense.
Oh my God. This is another really relevant one.
First of all, hello, Alyssa. I did not realize that I apparently was cloned at some point. This is exactly how I feel.
Before we continue, I want to give a shout out to Alyssa's art page on Instagram. Her username is @_flesh_daddy_.
Okay.
Yeah, so go follow her. She's a really talented artist, and she's another friend of the pod. But yeah, Lauren, what are your fucking thoughts on this one?
Oh, the idea that you just like push yourself and keep going and sacrifice everything else that hit me so hard.
For real. And that's just drives home what we've been saying, is that burnout doesn't have to come from bad stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like. We've had a lot of time recently at my work. It's one of the downsides, I think, of having a very small office is if you suddenly get busier, you have very few people to spread all the extra work among. And so we've had a ton to do, and everybody's doing like 5 different jobs, it feels like. And well, we're desperately trying to hire people, but that can't happen instantly. And so I feel like I've just had a lot of weeks where it's like I will push myself like, I got to get through this week. I got to get through this week at work. And if I can just get through this week, then I have a weekend. And
5 weeks later, you're still telling yourself that.
well, yeah. And also, like I get to the weekend and it's not until like Sunday afternoon where I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, well, now I feel alive enough that I could do something with this free time. It's like, I need all of Saturday to just kind of like lay there and nap and not move.
I think it was Orion who was saying like, when all your free time is spent recovering from burnout, it's so exhausting. And it truly feels like there's no end in sight sometimes.
And it sucks because then you feel cheated. Like, yeah, this was supposed to be my free time and I had to use it all to recoup after all my busy time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it truly sucks. And especially like, I mean, going back to my own personal example, like the podcast was something that I had to not sacrifice, but I was about to. Like I was getting to that point where I was like, should I really be doing this? Because it's taking more and more of my time and energy that I don't really have. And it's resulting in a worse content.
Right.
Like even when you do try to invest like fragments of energy into things that you love, that energy is not like as at full capacity. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're not able, like, let's say you practice piano for 20 minutes, but you're so burnt out that like you make a ton of mistakes and you're not able to focus. And then before you know it, 20 minutes is over and you feel like you didn't get anything done and you're more frustrated than ever.
And also I was just thinking, and this kind of goes back to the idea that we said, like, it can be related to depression, but they're not interchangeable.
Exactly.
Something I've been that in my last appointment with my psychiatrist that we talked about, because that is our main thing, is we're working on what med combo or whatever is going to most help the depression. And when I was talking to her last time, I said, like, here's a weird thing that's been going on lately is I am very familiar with the idea of just kind of like not wanting to get up and not wanting to do anything, even if it's something fun, because I just have no motivation and it's all like depression focused. But I said recently, there's been things that I want to do and that I've looked forward to having free time to doing. But when the time comes, I said, I feel that like extreme, just like tiredness and can't, like, I know that I'm not going to have the energy to get through it. But I said, like, instead of the depression, it's like, I'm angry about it when I realize that, because I'm like, I really wanted to do this. So that's I said, it's like a foreign thing to me, because I'm like, the motivation is actually there. I'm used to it not being, and just kind of like, I'm going to be a bump on a log.
Exactly. Like you do give a shit. Like with burnout, I think it's different that you actually do have the desire and maybe like the motivation to do stuff, but the energy just isn't there and it's not entirely conscious. So if you do have burnout, like don't blame yourself.
Yeah, I think of it like, I really want to go and do this activity with some friends. And it's just kind of like, if you're not going to be able to, but I think of it as, it's like, I can't force myself to go do it. And then, like in 15 minutes, be like, hey guys, I got to go home and take a nap. Sorry.
And that's the thing. Sometimes, like Alyssa used the word sacrifice a lot. You do need to sometimes sacrifice things if you know you are low on energy. Like let's say you're a video game character and your energy bar is low. Maybe don't try to climb the mountain and searching for gold if you have like 20% energy, because you're just not going to make it. And it's going to be frustrating. Game over.
Find a camp, recharge.
Yes. Oh shit. There was something else I was going to say about her voicemail. Oh my God. Oh, speaking of energy, eating regularly. Like she talked about sacrificing like a proper meal. Oh my God. Especially when she said protein. Because like I've been moving in the last week. I have not had time to eat all the time. When I have, it's been just like either a piece of pizza or like crackers or something easy, but I haven't been getting enough protein. And it really has been fucking me over.
I would imagine.
And it's like, okay, I kind of fucked myself over here, but now my stomach is in knots all the time from anxiety and like wondering what I'm missing. And so when I do have time to eat, it's harder. And I mean, that's hard for anyone, but especially if you have struggled with eating disordered stuff, it's kind of, that can lead to even more sinister ways of thinking.
It's like circumstance might make it so that you can't properly feed yourself for a while. But then like, as soon as your body kind of like gets used to it, then yeah, it messes with your mind and you're just like, well, I can keep going like this.
It's like Orion was saying with the drugs and the alcohol and stuff like that. Like, it's not, being burnt out is not your fault. And it's a pretty normal thing, that no cause for alarm, but it can lead to habits that can really fuck you up. And that's the danger of it, I think. Right before recording this, I had a spoonful of peanut butter.
I've done that before, so I'm familiar.
Monster and peanut butter, like breakfast of champions. But no, really, I'm trying to, and also we don't have any food in the kitchen. So I'm going to go grocery shopping later and set myself up for success by getting stuff that's like easy to eat and has protein.
I just got
and,
a
like,
kick out of that because that
calories
is one of my go-tos where it's just kind of like, okay, I am fading fast and I just need something in my stomach to give me energy. It's like, I'll just dip a spoon in the peanut butter.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, no, you know yourself better than anyone. Like, you know, when you're starting to slip and you start sacrificing things here and there. You start like, I don't know. It's
unfortunately more like Alyssa just said. I know I'm also one that you maybe notice it in the back of your mind, but you just keep pushing it off almost until it becomes disaster. It has to get to that point because you just keep saying, no, I can keep going. No, I got this. It's not that big a deal.
Kind of like all or nothing thinking. Like, okay, my life, especially when you're used to being in chaos, like crisis mode all the time, when you're not, like, let's just say you're working 30 minutes late every day at work and you don't think it's a big deal, but then that's 30 minutes that you usually scoop the litter or start prepping for dinner. And that's 30 minutes you don't have to do those things anymore. And so then you start feeling, I don't have time to do this. I got to catch up, but I'm so tired. I don't feel like it. So I'm just going to treat myself and like have a beer instead and watch TV. And it doesn't sound very bad. It sounds like a normal situation, but if it happens regularly, you're kind of in trouble.
Like, it's a fine thing for one day, but when it builds up, that's when you...
Yeah. So know yourself. Like, Lauren, what are the signs for you that you are slipping into burnout? Now that we've talked about it, now that we kind of know more about what it looks like, I don't know. Did you learn anything surprising about yourself?
I mean, it is still a hard one for me to answer. And I'm going back to saying, because I will blatantly ignore it. And I actually relate that to just kind of how I've always been. Well, growing up, my family didn't have a lot of money. And so and so one thing is I was a pretty healthy kid and we moved when I was 7, at which point all basic kid vaccines and things like that were taken care of. And so I never had a regular doctor when I was a kid. Because my mom was just like, well, you were never really sick. So, you didn't get regular checkups. We didn't take you to it. I'm like, I feel like the only time that I ever saw a doctor between 7 and 22 was when I got hit by a car on my bike.
Oh my God. Wait, so how old were you? 22 when that happened?
No, I was 12 when that happened, but I'm just saying, like, that's the only time in the like 7 to 22 span that I probably saw a doctor.
I mean, I feel like that's pretty common. Like, I mean, not just if you don't have health insurance like me, but like, I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm not sick. Like, why waste time and energy and sometimes money to go to the doctor?
Yeah. And I think especially because, like I said, I was set up that way. I mean, when I'm 7, 8, and 9, my mom is not taking me to a doctor. She's saying, you're healthy. You don't need to. So when I grew up, I said, like, well, I'm not sick. And I spent all the time being like, as long as I don't have like a detached limb or I like physically am unable to breathe, then I'm just kind of like, I don't think this requires. I'm like, I'm sure that it'll go away. I can.
Have you noticed over the years that attitude has led to burnout?
100%.
I'm really bad at taking care of my physical health too, until I absolutely have to, like you said earlier, and it's not good.
No.
Have you found ways over the years of like taking better care of or maintaining your physical health? I guess maintenance is key. Yeah. Honestly, like maintenance is the key to preventing burnout, I think. And it's not as radical as you might think. It could mean just, well, what does it mean for you?
I mean, for one thing, since I do have health insurance and a doctor that I see now, I mean, I don't see very often.
So proud of you.
But I do, at least at the bare minimum, I try to listen to, like they'll send you in my email, they'll send a reminder that it's like, oh, it's time, for your yearly visit, or it's time for you to get this done. I'm like, okay, I'll at least do that.
Thank God for reminders. Thank Goddess for reminders.
Yes. Although this time I have actually been thinking about it recently. I don't know if they just I got missed or what. Because I was like, last time that I saw my doctor was July of last year. So I'm just like, you missed your reminder. I guess I got to do this myself. And I'm not very good at that.
So for me, I didn't go to the OBGYN until I was 25.
Oh my God, I was 30.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of that is because I didn't have health insurance until then.
I just grew up in a really religious household. And, well, that's a whole other episode. But because I didn't go until that late, I just don't really think it's a big deal if I miss years.
Yeah, same here.
And it's not good. I would not recommend.
At this point,
do not do that.
It's probably been 3 years since my last one. I'm like, shit, they can't let it go that long.
Yeah.
That, and also, I am 40 now, and that's when you're supposed to start getting your boobies squished. I haven't done that yet.
Well, can't wait for that episode. The mammogram episode. Yes. Wait, is that what it is called? The
Yes.
mammogram? That's what that is, right?
I thought you meant, is it
called
called getting your boobies squished? It's...
Well, that's the scientific name.
Yes. A layperson calls it a mammogram. You're right.
A layperson. We're professionals on this podcast. A booby squishogram.
Yes.
A booby squish. So Lauren's gonna prepare herself for booby squishing, and I don't know what we're even talking about anymore.
Tangent.
Go get your boobies squished so you don't experience burnout.
Right. That's how it works.
If you do have boobies, if not, well, you're kind of screwed. I'm sorry.
I think we need a tangent alarm that we can play whenever we realize that we're totally off track.
That would be so annoying and also so great. Oh my God, I love it. What would the tangent alarm sound like to you? What do you...
Maybe it could...
Tangent!
Yes, like a Star Search, tangent.
You're the musician. Come up with a sting.
Okay, I'll work on that for next time.
I can't wait. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about burnout except that it sucks and I'm trying to get out of it. And I mean, talking about it really does help. And I really appreciate all the great advice that we got.
Yeah, it was surprisingly great to hear so many people relate. And I am moderately apprehensive, knowing, like I said, in November, I'll be in your place. Moving is stressful. And on top of everything that's already stressful, I'm just kind of looking forward to this is going to be hard.
Well,
I think I said recently that I was just I am so excited to be moved. I'm not excited to move.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I'm done with the moving and I am moved, but there's still so much to do.
Yes.
I'm trying to just tell look at the bigger picture, wrapping this up. A few people said, Ginger Lou said, looking at the big picture and realizing, okay, if I don't clean such and such today, nothing bad's going to happen. Let's say I just want to go on a walk instead. I'm not going to beat myself up over that because I know it's going to get done eventually.
Yeah.
That doesn't really apply to stuff with time limits, I guess.
No,
but it's a start.
But at the same time, I mean, it makes me think of when I worked at the company that sold trailers. I did the billing for them. I wasn't actually building a trailer. I was in the office, doing their billing. But some people would get so stressed out about these little things not going on. And that's what she always used to say, you know what? At the end of the day, we're not saving lives. We're not performing brain surgery. We're selling trailers.
I mean, brain surgeons must get burnt out too.
Oh my gosh, any kind of surgeon must.
Well, we are not surgeons. And you're right. Just looking at the bigger picture and being okay, how important is this actually?
And that was the thing, yes. Even if it was on a time limit, it's oh, what happens? So somebody didn't get their trailer when they wanted to.
Exactly.
The world will still survive.
Yeah. There's been a few times I've had to put out this podcast late or skip a week. That's why after 4 years, we only have 94 episodes But everyone is always so understanding, and it's been so healthy for me establishing boundaries in the podcast world to start establishing those same sorts of boundaries in real life, like taking a sick day once in a while if my mental health is really suffering. And like people usually don't care as much as you think they will, and if they do, then maybe they're not the best for you.
True.
Also, I love that like we are co-hosts and we have been friends for a while, but like there's still so much we don't know about each other, and I really enjoy finding out these little tidbits about you, like you used to work at a trailer company.
I know, that's fun. Like some of the topics that I've thought of us talking about, I've thought of that too, is like, I'm going to find out things that I do not know. This will be fun.
Yes, listeners, you are along for the ride of our friendship.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Everyone follow us on all the social things.
Leave us reviews because I hear that helps a lot.
Yeah, give us reviews.
And we want to get rich and famous so that our pets can have better lives.
Exactly. That's all that matters. And yeah, we're going to be putting out another pickle poll next week. So next episode, we will be discussing a topic of Lauren's choosing that I don't know about.
That's right.
So I'm really excited for that. And then next week, we will also be putting out a brand new pickle poll. So follow the socials to be the first to hear about it. And again, if you want to send in a voicemail, not just about the pickle polls, but about anything, go to anchor.fm/pickles and vodka spelled out and just click message and record as many 1-minute clips as you want, honestly.
We are almost getting good at listening to these voicemails, and they are so great. So.
Yes. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye. Hello, friends. It's Christina again. As always, thank you for listening. If you want to support Pickles and Vodka, you can give us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Pickles and Vodka Podcast. If you could relate to anything at all we talked about today, or you just want to say hi, email me at picklesandvodkapodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at picklesandvodkapodcast. Stay safe and have a good week. Bye.